The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in their hovering pods, all eyes fixed on the lone human ambassador standing at the center. Tom Miller, Earth's final diplomat, looked small against the towering alien architecture, but his voice carried strength that made even the eldest council members pause. For the last time, Tom said, his gray hair catching the light of distant stars through the chamber's transparent dome, Earth demands that all military vessels withdraw from the Sol system immediately. We have detected your stealth ships. This is your final warning. Quiet laughter rippled through the chamber. First Counselor Reed, a tall blue-skinned being, rose from his ornate pod. His expression showed the same condescending smile he'd worn throughout the 3-day emergency session. Ambassador Miller, Reed's translator, projected his words in perfect standard English. Your species has barely mastered basic interstellar travel. You've had a seat on this council for less than 2 Earth decades. While we respect humanity's enthusiasm, you cannot make demands of the Galactic Defense Force. Tom's weathered face remained calm, but his hands gripped the podium tighter. First Counselor, with all due respect, you misunderstand. This isn't a demand from a junior member. This is a warning from a species that has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. We've devoted more research to weapons development than your civilizations have to space travel. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Second Counselor Pole, a being of pure energy contained within a metallic shell, flashed with amusement. Ambassador, our scans show your entire defense fleet consists of 40 ships, none larger than a standard cruiser. The Defense Force has positioned over 2,000 vessels in your system. Tom closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, there was something ancient and tired in his gaze. We tried to warn you. We tried to explain why Earth's military capacity was kept hidden. Your scans only show what we wanted them to show. He pulled out a small communication device. Command Actual, Authorization Miller 7 Delta. They've made their choice. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The council members exchanged amused glances. First Counselor Reed opened his mouth to speak. Then every screen in the chamber lit up with emergency broadcasts. The Defense Force fleet in Sol system had gone dark. All 2,000 ships, gone in an instant. No debris. No energy signatures. Simply, gone. The chamber erupted in chaos. Tom Miller stood silently as the council members shouted and demanded explanations. Above the noise, his quiet words carried clearly. We didn't want this. We asked to be left alone. Remember that. When the first detailed reports arrived, even the oldest council members felt fear for the first time in centuries. The human ships hadn't moved. They hadn't fired any weapons. They had simply shifted reality. 2,000 of the most advanced ships in the galaxy had been displaced into what human physicists called null space. And in the shadow of Earth, a vast fleet of sleek black vessels began to decloak, their hulls bearing the simple words, Terra Defense Force. Humanity's warning had been ignored. Now the galaxy would learn why Earth had always preferred peace. The next 24 hours transformed the galaxy's power structure completely. As news of the Defense Force's defeat spread, the Galactic Council's emergency session turned into a continuous crisis meeting. The crystalline chamber, once a symbol of unified galactic power, now felt like a cage to its occupants. First Counselor Reed's blue skin had turned almost white with stress. Impossible, he muttered, watching the latest intelligence reports scroll across his screen. Their technology shouldn't exist. It can't exist. The Terra Defense Force had revealed itself fully now. 500 ships of varying sizes held position around Earth, each one displaying capabilities that defied known physics. Their hulls absorbed all scanning attempts, and their energy signatures seemed to shift randomly, making them impossible to track consistently. Tom Miller stood calmly at the center of the storm. He hadn't left the chamber, hadn't slept, barely moved from his position. He simply waited as the council members slowly accepted their new reality. "The ships you sent to Sol System are safe," he finally announced, breaking hours of tense silence. "They've been relocated to a holding dimension. Their crews are in perfect health, though likely confused. We can return them whenever you're ready to negotiate seriously." Second Counselor Pole's energy form flickered rapidly. "Negotiate? You attack our fleet and expect us to negotiate?" A tired smile crossed Tom's face. "We didn't attack anyone. We removed an invasion force from our home system after multiple warnings." "There's a difference." The chamber's screens suddenly lit up with new information. Data streamed in showing the locations of every Terra Defense Force outpost and installation that had been hidden throughout the galaxy. Bases that had existed for centuries, cloaked and waiting, integrated into asteroid fields, dark matter clouds, and even the spaces between dimensions. "Humanity knew we weren't alone long before your scouts officially discovered Earth," Tom explained. "We watched, we learned, and we prepared. While your civilizations focused on expanding outward, we focused on understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself." He gestured, and a hologram appeared above the chamber. It showed the historical development of human warfare, from stone tools to antimatter weapons, from tribal conflicts to world wars. "Every time we fought ourselves, we learned. Every conflict taught us new ways to defend, to hide, to strike. We hoped joining the Galactic Council would mean we could finally stop preparing for war." The council members watched in horrified fascination as the hologram displayed humanity's military advancement. Their own civilizations had largely abandoned traditional warfare thousands of years ago, focusing instead on political power and economic control. "Your attempts to subjugate Earth weren't subtle," Tom continued. "The trade restrictions. The technology embargoes. The peacekeeping, fleet deployments. We recognized the signs because we'd used the same tactics ourselves in our past. We just didn't want to believe an advanced galactic civilization would still think in such primitive terms." First Counselor Reed finally found his voice. "What are your demands?" Tom shook his head. "We don't make demands. We're offering a choice. The Defense Force fleet and crews will be returned, unharmed. Earth will maintain its Council membership. In return, all military actions against Earth cease permanently. We'll share some of our defensive technologies as a show of good faith. Or..." He let the silence hang heavy in the air. Every being in the chamber knew the unspoken alternative. They had witnessed what humanity could do with just a fraction of their hidden power. "The Council has one standard day to decide," Tom said, checking his simple wristwatch. "I suggest you use it wisely. Remember, we've already shown more mercy than many of your civilizations would have in our position." As the council members frantically began their deliberations, a message appeared on their private channels. It contained detailed scans of the null space technology that had removed their fleet, along with a simple note. "This is one of our older defense systems. It's outdated by our current standards. Consider that before you vote." The message was signed, Terra Defense Force Command. In the Sol system, Earth's hidden fleet maintained its vigilant watch, a silent reminder that sometimes the most dangerous species are the ones that pray for peace while preparing for war. As the Council's deadline approached, a new crisis emerged. The Trade Federation, operating independently of the Council's authority, had launched a desperate strike against Earth's orbital stations. They believed a quick show of force might restore the galaxy's power balance. They were wrong. Admiral James Walker of the Terra Defense Force stood on the bridge of the TDS Vigilant, watching the Federation's fleet approach through dimensional space. Unlike the Council's ships, which had been sent to intimidate, these vessels came armed for war. "They never learn," he said quietly, his expression grim. "Defensive pattern Delta. Let's show them why attacking Earth is a bad idea. The Federation fleet emerged from dimensional space, 300 warships strong, their weapons already charging. Their commanders expected to find Earth's defenses focused on the Council's captured fleet. Instead, they found themselves surrounded. The Terra Defense Force ships hadn't moved. They hadn't needed to. The space around Earth simply changed. Federation sensors showed they had emerged inside a complex geometric pattern of human vessels, each positioned with mathematical precision. "This is Admiral Walker to the approaching Federation fleet," his message broadcast on all frequencies. "You have entered a Type 7 defense grid. Stand down immediately." The Federation commander, a veteran of 1,000 battles, responded with a full barrage of antimatter torpedoes. The weapons streaked toward Earth's defenders, leaving trails of distorted space in their wake. 3 seconds before impact, every torpedo froze in place. Not just stopped, they ceased to exist within normal time. The Federation crews watched in horror as their most powerful weapons hung suspended in space like frozen stars. Walker's voice came again, still calm. "That was unwise. Final warning. Stand down or be disabled." The Federation commander ordered his ships to fire again. This time, the Terra Defense Force responded. No energy beams. No missile launches. No dramatic explosions. Instead, a subtle ripple passed through space itself. When it touched the Federation ships, their advanced systems simply stopped working. Engines, weapons, shields, even their artificial gravity failed instantly. On the Council chamber screens, the Federation's distress calls played out for all to hear. Tom Miller watched the Council members' reactions carefully. Some showed fear, others fascination, but all of them finally showed respect. "What you're witnessing," Tom explained, "is our most basic defensive technology. We call it the entropy field. It temporarily suspends the normal laws of physics within a defined area. No harmful radiation, no crew casualties, no permanent damage. Just a gentle reminder of humanity's capabilities." First Counselor Reed had abandoned his usual diplomatic posture. How did you develop these technologies without detection?" Tom smiled sadly. "We hid them in plain sight. Those primitive, human entertainment broadcasts you all ignored? Many contained the theoretical frameworks for our defensive systems. Our basic scientific papers published in galactic journals. They had deeper meanings if you knew how to read between the lines." He gestured, and a new hologram appeared, showing Earth's solar system. Countless small dots of light appeared, revealing hidden research stations and defense platforms that had been invisible to galactic scans. "While your scientists were trying to perfect faster ships, we focused on understanding spacetime itself. While you built bigger weapons, we learned to manipulate reality on a quantum level. We didn't want an arms race. We wanted to make war itself obsolete." The Council chamber fell silent as the Federation fleet's fate became clear. The ships hung powerless in space, their crews unharmed but thoroughly defeated. The Terra Defense Force began methodically towing them to designated holding areas, their advanced technology making the massive task look effortless. "Your day of deliberation is almost over," Tom reminded the Council. "But before you vote, consider this: everything we've shown you, everything we've done, has been defensive. We haven't fired a single shot. Haven't caused a single casualty. That's not because we can't. It's because we choose not to." The chamber's screens showed new images, the Federation crews being safely evacuated, their ships preserved for return, medical teams ensuring everyone's well-being. Earth's response to aggression wasn't destruction, it was a demonstration of absolute control paired with deliberate mercy. "Humanity spent millennia dreaming of reaching the stars," Tom continued. "When we finally did, we found a galaxy that operated on the same old principles of force and domination that nearly destroyed us many times. We decided to be better than that. To be ready to defend ourselves, yes, but never to become the very thing we feared. As the council members began their final deliberations, a message from Terra Defense Force Command appeared on their screens: choose carefully. Your next vote will determine whether humanity becomes your greatest ally or your most patient opponent. The fate of galactic civilization now rested on a simple question: would they learn from humanity's example, or would pride drive them toward an unwinnable conflict with a species that had mastered the art of peaceful deterrence? The Council's voting chamber had never been so quiet. After witnessing the effortless neutralization of both their defense force and the Federation fleet, the representatives of 1,000 worlds sat in deep contemplation. The choice before them seemed simple on the surface: accept humanity's terms or risk confrontation, but the implications ran much deeper. First Counselor Reed broke the silence. Before we vote, I request one final clarification. He turned to Tom Miller, who remained at his post, patient as ever. Show us what would have happened if we had forced your hand. Show us what you held back. Tom's expression turned grave. Are you certain? Some knowledge can't be unknown once it's revealed. The council members murmured their agreement with Reed's request. They needed to understand the full scope of what they faced. Very well, Tom said softly. He pressed a button on his simple communicator. Command, authorization Miller Final Omega. Educational demonstration authorized. The chamber's holographic systems activated, but this time the display was different. Instead of simple images, the counselors found themselves seemingly transported to deep space. The technology creating this immersive experience was far beyond anything they possessed. Observe an uninhabited star system in the outer rim, Tom narrated. We established this testing ground centuries ago. Before their eyes, a small fleet of older human ships appeared, vessels that would have been considered primitive by Council standards. They faced a simulated enemy force modeled after the most powerful combined fleet in galactic history. This demonstration uses real physics and accurate technological capabilities, Tom explained. The only difference is that we're seeing a recording of an actual test conducted 50 years ago. The simulated battle began. The human ships didn't move at first. The enemy fleet launched a full assault, unleashing enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Then, reality itself seemed to tear apart. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't return fire. Instead, the space around them began to fold. The enemy's weapons fire simply ceased to exist, the energy disappearing into microscopic artificial black holes that vanished an instant later. Then the human ships activated their primary weapons. The council members watched in stunned silence as laws of physics they thought immutable were casually rewritten. Portions of spacetime were selectively accelerated, causing sections of enemy ships to age millions of years in seconds. Quantum fields were manipulated to temporarily change the fundamental forces holding matter together. Artificial dimensions were created and collapsed, taking whole squadrons of ships with them. In under 2 minutes, the most powerful fleet ever assembled had been completely neutralized. Not destroyed, the human weapons were precise enough to disable ships without harming their crews. The level of control was as frightening as the power itself. The hologram faded, returning them to the council chamber. Many representatives looked physically ill. That demonstration, Tom said quietly, used technology we considered cutting-edge 50 years ago. I think you can understand why we kept our true capabilities hidden. Why we tried so hard to resolve conflicts peacefully. First Counselor Reed's voice shook slightly. Your species, you could have conquered the galaxy at any time. Tom shook his head. That was never our goal. Humanity learned long ago that conquest only breeds resistance. True peace comes from understanding and mutual respect. He paused, looking around the chamber. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't even want to fight. We just want to ensure that our home, and our way of life, remain secure. The Council's voting systems activated. The choice before them was clear. Option 1, accept humanity's terms, full withdrawal of military forces from Sol system, return of captured fleets, and establishment of new diplomatic protocols. Option 2, reject the terms and face the consequences. As the representatives began to cast their votes, Tom added one final thought. Remember, everything we've shown you, every capability we've revealed, was developed for defense. Ask yourselves, what if humanity decided to focus on offensive weapons instead? What if we chose to be conquerors rather than guardians? The voting proceeded quickly after that. Even the most hawkish council members had seen enough. The mission to subjugate Earth had been conceived in ignorance and pride. Now, faced with the true scope of human technological advancement, there was only one rational choice. But as the votes were tallied, alarm signals suddenly blared throughout the chamber. The few remaining hardliners had made one final, desperate move. And now, humanity would be forced to demonstrate why attacking Earth was the worst mistake the galaxy could make. The real battle was about to begin. The warning sirens echoed through the council chamber as tactical displays showed the unthinkable, 3 separate battle fleets emerging from dimensional space around Earth. The hardline faction, led by the militant warclans of the outer systems, had launched a desperate final attack. Admiral Walker's voice came through the chamber's communication systems, calm as ever. 5,000 ships detected. They're using banned quantum collapse weapons. Interesting. Tom Miller watched the council members panic with a tired expression. Even now, they don't understand. He turned to First Counselor Reed. You should watch this. It's important to understand why peace is always our first choice. The chamber's screens showed the massive attack fleet approaching Earth from multiple vectors. Their weapons were powerful enough to crack planets, their shields supposedly impenetrable. They represented the absolute peak of galactic military might. The Terra Defense Force ships didn't move to engage. They maintained their defensive positions, almost eerily still against the backdrop of stars. Admiral Walker's next transmission was directed at the approaching fleet. This is your only warning. The Sol system is protected by Final Defense Protocol Omega. Retreat immediately or face immediate neutralization. You have 30 seconds to comply. The WarClan commanders responded by launching their quantum collapse warheads, weapons designed to tear apart the very fabric of spacetime. The council chamber fell silent as they watched what seemed to be Earth's final moments. Then something impossible happened. The space around Earth began to glow with a soft blue light. It wasn't a shield or an energy barrier, it was something far more fundamental. Reality itself seemed to ripple like the surface of a calm pond. Final Defense Protocol Omega, Tom explained quietly, isn't a weapon. It's a complete manipulation of local spacetime. What you're about to see is why humanity never feared invasion. The quantum collapse warheads reached the blue field, and simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not deflected, but erased from reality as if they had never been fired. The attacking fleet sensors went wild as they detected massive gravitational and quantum fluctuations. You see, Tom continued, we discovered something interesting about spacetime. It's not fixed. It's not absolute. It's more like a suggestion. And with the right understanding, it can be locally rewritten. The blue field expanded. As it touched each enemy ship, something extraordinary happened. The vessels didn't explode or break apart, they transformed. Advanced weapons became inert metal. Dimensional drives turned to simple chemical engines. Shield generators reverted to basic electromagnetic deflectors. The entire attacking fleet had been technologically devolved by hundreds of years. We call it the reset field, Tom explained to the stunned council. It temporarily reverts technology to a more primitive state by altering the fundamental physical constants within a defined space. No casualties. No destruction. Just peaceful neutralization. The Warclan fleet, now operating with severely reduced technology, could barely maintain orbit. Their mighty warships, pride of the outer systems, were now little more than basic space vessels. Admiral Walker's voice returned, "All hostile ships have been neutralized. Beginning recovery operations." The Council watched in amazement as Earth's medical and rescue ships approached the stranded fleet. Despite everything, humanity's first response was to ensure the enemy crew's safety and comfort. "This is why we hid our true capabilities," Tom said, addressing the chamber. "This is why we tried so hard to find peaceful solutions. Because once you can rewrite the laws of physics themselves, war becomes meaningless. Power becomes meaningless. The only thing that matters is the wisdom to know when not to use it." First Counselor Reed stood slowly. "I call for an immediate vote on humanity's terms. And I move to add a second proposal, that Earth be appointed to head a new Council Committee on Peaceful Conflict Resolution." The vote was unanimous. The chamber erupted in applause, not from fear or manipulation, but from genuine respect. They had witnessed a species that possessed godlike power choose peace time and again. 1 week later, the Council reconvened. The formerly hostile ships had been restored to full function and returned to their worlds. The Defense Force fleet and Federation ships were released, their crews unharmed. And humanity revealed its greatest secret: they were ready to share some of their defensive technology with the galaxy. Not the reality-altering weapons, Tom clarified to the new Peace Committee. But the defensive systems, the medical technology, the clean energy solutions we developed along the way. Because that's what humanity truly wants, a galaxy where war is obsolete not because of fear, but because peace is simply the better option. Admiral Walker stood beside him, adding, "Our weapons will remain. Our defenses will stay active. Earth will always be ready to protect itself. But from now on, we do it openly, as guardians rather than shadows." The galaxy had learned its lesson. The species they had dismissed as primitive had turned out to be ancient masters of spacetime itself. The race they had tried to subjugate had shown them a better path. And in the centuries that followed, when new civilizations would ask why Earth held such a respected position in the galaxy, they would be told the story of humanity's final warning, and how it led not to war, but to the longest peace the galaxy had ever known.